This is Talk is Sheep, a podcast by the Wild Sheep Society of British Columbia. Come along as we take conversations that matter to you into the high alpine.
Steve-O, July 22nd, we're on the precipice of the sheep opener.
Some of us are anyway. I'm not going till mid-September, so I'm not too excited yet.
I understand you bought a sheep tag this year, right?
I haven't yet, but I will be.
Okay.
I don't want to carry it around yet. I've still got some bear to be hunting in August, right? And the new regs state you have to carry all your tags, and I don't want to lose it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. So we're literally... what are we, 10 days away from the opener? So, it's happening quick. So you mentioned road closures, wildfire. What's our concern there?
Well, people are going to be heading north out of the lower mainland and all over, and pay attention to Drive BC. I've got some friends that are supposed to be coming up tomorrow to visit, and they're going to have to detour through Kamloops and up and around because of the fires through Lytton area, 100 Mile area. So pay attention to that. You might be hitting a roadblock, road closure. So can't stress that enough. Make sure your route's clear before you head up.
Okay, great. So we're not going to spend a bunch of time on this. We're going to get right to the podcast. This is a really cool one. I think we're episode 37, and we've got Renée Thornton on from the Wild Sheep Foundation. She's the Women Hunt Chair for the Women Hunt Committee. And they got a fantastic new program this year that's really exciting. Mm-hmm. You just hear the enthusiasm in Renée's voice. She's so passionate about this subject. And, she shared this program with the Wild Sheep Society BC here last week. And I just was so excited about this. Is such a great opportunity for, a potential lady hunter that's interested in getting into the hunting community. So just a great episode with Renée.
Oh yeah, lots of cool stuff she puts out there, and if you've got a woman hunter or a woman hunter that's not experienced, that's the key, and one that wants to get into it, you're going to want to give this a listen because there's a great opportunity here for someone.
And part of this is to promote this program from the Wild Sheep Foundation. It's a new program. They're looking for 12 lady hunters or aspiring lady hunters, really. And you'll hear all about it on the podcast. So give it a listen. And if you know somebody that maybe has any remote interest in hunting or anything to do with that, share this with them. Make sure they get their application in. It's a pretty tight timeline. They have to have everything done by, I think Renée mentions August 9th on the podcast. So, make sure you share this around and let people know about it. What's going on? So my wife doesn't hunt, very supportive of it, nothing wrong with it. She doesn't have any issues with it. She just doesn't hunt and doesn't have an interest to. What's going on? I know that your spouse, she is interested. I think she's done some hunting. Has she harvested an animal? I believe she has, hasn't she?
No, she hasn't actually. She's got her core. She's got her PAL a couple years ago. I think I told you the story before. We were up on a road north of here in Prince George, and snowshoe hare was open, and come around the corner is a snowshoe hare at about 30 yards. So she gets the 22 out, gets the shooting sticks out. I hear the safety come off, and then hear the screech of a falcon hawk, and it comes and hammers the rabbit like right in her scope. And she looks at me and she goes, "Well, I guess that wasn't meant to be." So first animal she was getting ready to shoot, it was swiped by a bird. So no, she hasn't swiped or hasn't shot anything. Lowered her rifle on the one rabbit, and so it'd be a perfect program for someone like her.
Absolutely, dude. The only thing is it's going to kill you if she gets to go to Texas and takes this $4,000 program, and you get to sit at home with your daughter. It's going to be a nightmare, man.
Who says I won't be putting on a wig and pretending?
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to go straight to the podcast. Really honored to have Renée Thornton on the show. Episode number 37, Wild Sheep Foundation, Women Hunt.
If you looked up the words conservation superhero in the dictionary, you would see a picture of our friend Omer from Precision Optics. A tireless donor and supporter of all things wild sheep, Precision Optics, located in Quesnel, British Columbia, truly stands alone in the high alpine. From optics to rifles to outdoor gear and a knowledge that cannot be surpassed, toss in that killer smile and you have a total conservation package. Precision Optics, we are truly thankful for the support you show us every step of the way. Find them online at precisionoptics.net or in Aroma Foods, located just off Highway 97 in Quesnel, BC.
Good morning, Renée. How are you doing?
I'm great, Kyle. Thanks. How are you?
Good. So you're coming to us from the sunny state of Nevada, is that right? Or where are you at today?
Yeah, we're in Lake Tahoe today, enjoying the beautiful weather and boating out here.
Fantastic. Well, hey, I really want to thank you for coming on the podcast, Talk of Sheep. And, you reached out to all the Wild Sheep Foundation chapter and affiliates this past week with a really exciting program. And, Steve and I have talked a lot. We really would like to have you on the show here. So this was, when we seen this, we're like, okay, we really got to get you on and have a discussion about everything. So, a lot of our listeners probably recognize your name, but maybe don't know you as well as they could. So I'd just like to hear a little bit about who Renée Thornton is, where she comes from, a little bit about, where your past, your, professionally, anything you want to share with us, we'd love to hear about you. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Well, let's see. I'm a Canadian girl I'm from the province of Alberta, born and raised just outside of Edmonton in a farming family, and lived my whole life in Alberta, and traveled a lot. I've been to 6 or 7 continents. I love exploring the world and meeting new people. That's a big passion of mine. I professionally worked for the Canadian federal government for 30 years. I had a really great career with them. I did a lot of diverse things and really was able to contribute a lot to what our Canadian government offers to citizens with respect to services and programs. I led a huge team of people, and it was a great time in my life. But I now live in the great state of Montana, about 40 minutes west of Bozeman. And it's a beautiful part of that state. And I'm married and I have 2 dogs and a great life there. And it's a whole new journey, especially because I moved down to the States after we were married and COVID hit 2 months later. So it really was a baptism by fire, having immigrated to the United States and then having, all the restrictions we all did during the pandemic with not being able to travel home. But that's past us, and I'm happy about that. And it's a great place to live.
Fantastic, Renée. So, yeah, I think, my first encounter with you, I believe, was at Sheep Show 2019. So I ran into you at the show and met you and had a really great discussion. And really, it was, I could see your enthusiasm and you're hanging out and meeting and just, it was so cool to talk to you. And during that time, actually, I think it was, I don't know if it was 19 or 20, we started talking a little bit about, your journey in the hunt world, and some of the things you've experienced and your enthusiasm was infectious for the hunting community and wild sheep too. I could sense that right away. So, now let's talk a little bit about what the Wild Sheep Foundation and Women Hunt and I understand you're the lead of that committee, right? So can you talk a little bit about that and just the background on that and that evolution and how that came about?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is all tied in together, as most things are. So it was late 2016, early 2017, living and working professionally in Calgary. And I had been toying with this idea of learning to hunt for several years, and I always pushed that thought aside because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know anybody well who hunted, and just didn't know where to start. But it was a recurring thought. It kept coming up, and I finally decided, surely to goodness I can figure this out and pathfind this. And so being Canadian, it's very different, as you know, as being American as far as gun ownership is concerned. So that was my first hurdle, was figuring out how to legally, become licensed to own a firearm in Canada. And then after I did that, I did my hunter education program. And what I generally found in the first part of my journey was that I was able to figure out these elements. How do I become a legal gun owner? How do I get my hunter education training? Where can I find like-minded people? I joined local fish and game associations in the Calgary area. That part of the journey wasn't too difficult for me, and I started going to events, volunteering for these organizations, trying to get out and meet people. And generally speaking, the community was very, very welcoming. That whole path led me to find out about Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta chapter. And I didn't know anything about the Wild Sheep Foundation or its chapters and affiliates early on. But having grown up in Alberta, in proximity to the Canadian Rockies, of course, adore bighorn sheep. They're beautiful, iconic animals. So I thought, what a great organization. Sounds like they do great work. And I joined Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta. And I also joined Wild Sheep Foundation, the national chapter, early on. And I really did have a great first year. It certainly had some challenges. There were times as I went out to meet people or go to events and volunteer for things where some people just didn't know what to make of a woman showing up and on her own in these environments in her mid 40s. There were some questions about perhaps my motivations or purpose for being there. But as I mentioned, largely folks were very, very welcoming and enthusiastic about somebody new to the hunting and conservation community in that part of the province, and wanting to give back and volunteer. So. But nevertheless, another key thing that was a huge challenge in that first year for me was finding somebody to mentor me on a hunt. Lots of people were super supportive and always willing to talk to me, or point me in the direction if I had a question about the right boots to buy or pack or camouflage or whatever my issue might have been. But getting somebody to take me out into the field was a bit tougher. So certainly for me, in my experience with my personality and how I approached this whole journey, the biggest issue was finding somebody to get me out in the field. So my first sheep show was actually in 2018. I went there knowing nobody other than the president of the Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta, Rob Kopecki at the time. I knew he was going to be there. And so I bought my package for the week and headed down to Reno and Peppermill, and just really could not believe what a community Wild Sheep Foundation was. That to me was the best experience I had, was with this group. And let's see here, that was in early 2018. And then fast forward, it's summer of 2018. And every summer when I lived in Calgary, I would drive into northwestern Montana and fly fish up there on the Kootenai River. And I found out that Wild Sheep Foundation in Bozeman was having an open house right around the same time I was going to be in the States. So I contacted Kevin Hurley, who works for the foundation, as you know, and headed down to attend the open house and meet more people. And it was at that open house that I met the past chairman of the board of the Wild Sheep Foundation, Brett Jefferson. And he and I had a chance to sit down and talk in a lot of detail about what that first year and a half was like for me. And Brett had an idea, unbeknownst to me, and he approached Gray Thornton, president and CEO of the foundation, about Wild Sheep Foundation trying to support new women in hunting and conservation and easing that experience. So that was really the genesis of how Women Hunt came to be, was through this path and me talking to Brett at that open house. And so, it's just been incredible since then. And the support from Wild Sheep Foundation and the participation every year at the Sheep Show when we host a seminar is tremendous. And it's just been great.
That's awesome, Renee. So can we just like back up the bus and like, kind of your youth? Did you grow up in was it a rural community you grew up, or did you grow up in the city, or how did that look like for you? And was there anyone in your family that was involved in the hunting community that did any of the hunting or any of that stuff?
Yeah. So I did grow up in rural Alberta, just south of Edmonton, a little small francophone farming town called Beaumont. My parents both were born and raised in farming families, but they themselves didn't farm. We were in the town site, 300 people. But all my aunts and uncles all actively farmed around the area, as well my dad's farm, my dad's family north of Edmonton in the Radway area. So my summers, my spring breaks, my free time, I was always at somebody's farm. And so I grew up around, cattle farmers, dairy farmers, poultry farmers, hog farmers, grain farmers. But if anybody hunted in my family, I never heard about it. I never saw it. It was never discussed. I suspect probably like most farmers, they had to kill coyotes and other things on their properties, but I never saw it. It was never something they talked about, and it was certainly never anything that they offered to take me out to do. I did a bunch of other things around the farm, but never that. So when I decided to do all of this, I did not feel like there was anybody in my family that I could speak to. It wasn't something in my mind that they did.
So I'm curious with you, your evolution, how with your story, how did you go from not really growing up with it, not really probably having much of an interest in it, or maybe you did, but how did you go from kind of this adult onset hunter in your mid 40s to saying, hey, I want to be a hunter now? Where did that, was there an event in your life? Did you meet somebody that, or, what kind of precipitated that got that journey going for you?
Yeah, great question. It was actually because of that whole life of growing up on farms and understanding animal husbandry and how farmers raise animals. And I moved away from this small community after high school, moved into the city and started a career. And it was in my early 30s when I started to think about sourcing my meat more ethically. And so I would start to go to local farmers markets where there were small producers. I really liked the producers who would invite you to visit their farms and see how they operated their process with the animals. And that's when I really started to think about maybe I should just hunt. And that thought came in and out of my mind for almost a decade throughout my mid 30s to my mid 40s. And like I said, I just would keep pushing it away because it felt overwhelming. I really did not know how I should tackle this. And so that's really what it was. It was initially about wanting to source my meat in the most ethical and natural way possible. That was the start of it. Very
cool. So, you talk about your mid 30s and kind of having this, transformation, like wanting to connect more with, a natural source of meat and that sort of thing. So, and now you start going to these fish and game events and meeting people and individuals. Let's talk about some of the challenges for you. Like, obviously, there's a gender issue here, and that's kind of, I guess, the women hunt. One of the things you're addressing there. But what were some of the obstacles there? You talked about. There was a lot of support, but then you want to go in the field, and it was tough, and I can appreciate that. So, what are some of the struggles you had there, and how did you overcome them? And I guess one of the things I really would like to know is, can a guy mentor a woman? Like, is that going to be a natural thing where you can go on a 7-day sheep hunt or a 7-day elk hunt, and be platonic and there's that whole guy girl thing. And what does that look like, for you? And what are some of the, I don't know, challenges around that and I guess remedies for that. So.
Wow. Well, that's a hardball question. Good one. Yeah. So, I guess, I think it's just important for me to just say that I know that this can be challenging for anybody, and I'm not implying that there aren't challenges for anybody who enters the hunting and conservation world, but there are particular challenges that women face. And so to your question, for myself, the struggle of finding a mentor in the field, and I don't. This is not a criticism. I fully understand why there were hesitancies and reservations. And it is around that concept. Can a guy and a girl go out on a hunt? And what does that look and feel like, right? And so, a big part of it was girlfriends and wives not being comfortable with that concept. And I completely understand that. It is a different one to wrap your head around, and you need to be super comfortable, confident, and feel safe with whomever it is that's taking you out. And so, that was a big part of that barrier for me. And a large reason for that is because at this point in time, even though there are a lot of reasons why the fastest growing segment in hunting today is women, nevertheless, we might be the fastest growing segment, but most of our population is male. So how do you find a good mentor? And how easily can you find a woman to hunter a woman, So I got really lucky. I was sitting down with a really good friend of mine, my cousin Guy, and I was telling him about my journey, and he was super excited for me. He never hunted. And I said, I'm really struggling with figuring out this mentorship piece. And he said, do you remember from hometown, do you remember Don Thompson? And I did. He was a guy who was in my grade, and I hadn't seen him since like a bush party when I was 22 years old or something in rural Alberta, but just we had gone different paths. But anyways, he said, I play Sunday night hockey with Don. And he said, he's still a really active, huge hunter. And I said, I didn't even know he hunted. Like I never knew that about him. And he said, well, he is a huge hunter. And he said, how about if I talk to him about you and see if he might want to sit down and have a coffee? So that conversation with my cousin led to me reconnecting with an old friend from my hometown. And he's married, he has 2 adult children. They're both active hunters. His wife hunts a little bit. He said, I'm done mentoring my own kids. And he said, I'd love to help you out. And, he was great about it. He had me over to their acreage. I was able to meet his wife. She was super chill. And, I think it helped that we were childhood friends. And, I don't really know her thought process other than I just know she was relaxed about the entire concept. And so my first hunting opportunity, I thought it would be, whitetail in the fall in Alberta, right? And no, my phone rings in April of that year, and Don says, hey, are you ready to start hunting? And I said, yeah, sure. What are we planning for? Something in November? And he said, no. He said, I have a spring bear camp in XYZ area of Alberta that I hunt in every year. And he said, I'd like to take you out on your first hunt for spring black bear. And I mean, I just was like, what? I would never have expected that, So, but the bear hunt's a whole other story. But, that's how my first mentored hunt worked. And a large part of that was really the graciousness of Don's wife.
Right. So on that note, your first big game animal going and chasing bears, how did you approach that? Now it's, now you're a seasoned hunter, and it's, but at that time you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go on a whitetail hunt this fall, and all of a sudden you're chasing black bears. Was there an evolution there? Was there anything where you're like, wow, like, cause there's the whole predator piece, which, there's a lot of hunters that don't even want to hunt a predator. Right. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I asked a question early on of somebody I met in the Calgary area at one of the game and association banquets I went to. And that his response to me stuck with me, and it still does to this day. And I asked him, what are your thoughts on hunters who hunt in Africa, for example, these predator species like lions or whatever. And he looked at me and he said, here's the thing. If you choose to hunt, then you're a hunter, and you need to be supportive of all hunting as long as it's ethical and legal. You can't start cherry picking what's okay and what's not okay, because what might be okay to you may not be okay to somebody else. And, I'm paraphrasing his answer, but that was basically the nuts and bolts of it. And it really stuck with me. And the other thing I did too, to wrap my head around predator hunting and early on, was I just talked to people about what was that. What was the meaning of that hunt to them, and what did they do with the meat, and what did they do, with any part of that animal? And then that's when I began to learn about how meat is shared and used, and all the aspects of how we give back within communities if it's not something we don't use ourselves. And that really helped me kind of wrap my head around it. And then as far as my bear hunt was concerned, Don had been hunting bear, as I mentioned, for years. And he he raved about the meat. He said, sometimes it's touch and go, especially with a fall bear, because they've maybe been into some food sources over the summer preparing for winter that aren't the tastiest. But he said spring bear is really good. And so I just decided, to really embrace these concepts of just being, open to the idea if I can use the meat, which I did, and it was excellent. And I shared it with people, my family and friends. Some people were hesitant to eat it, but most were pretty enthusiastic.
Very cool. There's a whole bunch of stuff I'd love to jump in on there, but I'm going to try and stay on the women hunt theme here. And there's so much I'd love to talk to you. And we might have to have you back on the show to talk about this stuff, because I'd like to hear about your evolution about, initially it was a food source, passion that brought you to the hunting community. I'd like to know your journey, if it's still that, or now it's experiential, right? Like there's you do a ton of hunting and tons of experiences, and I'm sure you've evolved. But anyway, we'll get into that on another podcast. So
Okay.
let's talk about this mentorship piece. So that worked with you and Dawn, right? You had a successful mentorship program. Are you seeing that through Women Hunt, that you can have that? Is it, probably the most comfortable situation is two women, a woman mentoring another woman, but have you seen successful cases, and is that something you encouraged, through your program, is to have to look for a male mentor as well? Is that, how do you approach that when somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to hunt? What's that discussion like for you?
Yeah, and the Women Hunt program, we haven't fully developed like a holistic mentorship program. I'm not sure if we're really going to get there as far as us delivering it directly, but I think we can support it in different ways, which I'll get to when we talk a little bit later about the opportunity this fall in Texas for 12 new women. But one of the things I did, so when Brett Jefferson asked me to take on a lead role to help the pathway for women into hunting for Wild Sheep Foundation, I formed a committee, and I selected a group of women, and I wanted there to be some diversity in age, experience, and personality and attitudes, so that we didn't get caught up in that groupthink thing, and then nevertheless, what we did for the first Sheep Show 2019, where we had a seminar, we structured it in a way that the community can meet that committee. And we had an hour, and we had over 70 people in the room, which is just phenomenal attendance for a seminar at Sheep Show. And what I did was, the ladies on my committee all thought about something they wanted to talk about, and they did talk about a topic. But then we also took questions from the crowd. And one of the questions we asked, and the group attending every seminar has always been a mix of men and women, which is wonderful. And I really value that diversity. So in any case, we asked the women in the room, would you be comfortable being mentored by a man? And we were using an online poll, Slido, and so I could see the results coming in real time. And it was about a 50-50 split. 50% of the room was okay with being mentored by a man, and 50% would have preferred a woman. So that was, I think, an important question to ask early on. And so every seminar we've had since, the second one in 2020, we moved away from talking heads, and we went into a town hall format where we just had them feed us stuff for 90 minutes. We learned a lot about what our community wants from this committee and this program. And so what they really want is that mentorship piece, though they understand we don't really know what that looks and feels like yet. But what we all acknowledge is that there's already a ton of really great programs out there and organizations that do fantastic things in all our territories, provinces, and states. So what we're going to develop, we're in the process of just starting the work, is we're going to have a website that is basically just a hub and spoke. And we're going to pick the key areas that these women, our membership, have identified to us in these seminars, and we're going to point them to what's already out there in their jurisdiction that can help them. Other things we've talked about is, bringing in some of the best out there, best women out there. Maybe it's, woman X from whatever's province who's a really great elk hunter. And then we have her take questions from members who might want to have some information specific to an elk hunt. And it could be a deer hunt or a bear hunt or a sheep hunt or whatever. But, we want to build some resources that we can get specific questions answered that maybe the women can't find on an existing resource, or just want to dive into a little deeper, or they're not comfortable talking about a particular barrier they're facing as a woman in a public forum, and they need that private conversation. So, I think mentorship can look like that too. And, I guess to answer your question about how do you build that mentorship program, I think you just have to go to the existing communities out there and find the right people. And that, like with Dawn, we were a good match. We had similar ethical values, similar attitudes, backgrounds. It meshed, it worked. So part of that matching people is a challenge, finding the right match. And I think if we just continue engaging locally with existing resources and folks, that's how we can make it work.
Very cool. So you talked about this hub and spoke system and connecting with local jurisdictions. What might be an example of that? Can you think of something it doesn't matter, across the network where, there's this resource or opportunity for you to get involved? So what would be an example of that, Renee, that comes to mind for you?
Sure. And I guess it depends on what the woman's looking for, right? But,
Okay.
Let's say it's a woman who's looking, maybe she's already further along in her journey and she's looking for an opportunity to help educate or make people more aware about the benefits of hunting and how it helps in conservation. Immediately I think about programs that Wild Sheep Society of BC is running, One Campfire, for example, right? Bringing people along. If it's a woman who's newer to the journey and she's trying to figure out, what boots she needs to buy, it can be, like I said, one of these women that will target to answer specific questions. Or it can even be, you have to forgive me, the scope of my experience is really limited to Alberta. So, AHIA, Alberta Hunter Education Instructors Association, that would be a great resource for a woman out of the province of Alberta to go to find out things like that. Or even, hey, they offer a shotgun class. I want to learn how to shoot shotgun, or whatever it might be. And I know that these things exist across the network.
Very cool. So Renee, I would just want to talk about, pivot away from the mentorship piece. And now, for women, I've heard this several times. I hear this in podcasts and just in dialogue with women that, you kind of get treated differently. Like, a single woman goes into a store and is asking stuff. And my wife experienced this. Actually, she was buying me some Sitka gear. She knew I wanted something, and she went into the local fish and game store, and they didn't treat her well. They treated her very poorly. They were very condescending. And she was just buying something for me. But it's even worse when I hear these stories about a woman that goes in and says, well, I want to go hunting and I need some gear. Like, oh, so you're going with your husband or your boyfriend, or like, no, I just want to go hunting by myself. And then, or a guy and girl go in, which is even worse. And the woman's maybe the experienced hunter, and they have, she's there with her significant other or friend or whatever. And they're talking to the guy like he knows what he's doing. And so have you experienced that? And if not, what's your experience in talking to women and that experience for them?
Oh, absolutely. I've experienced that. And I've got several hunts under my belt now, and I still experience it. And,
right.
It is, I just think, an unfortunate part of the reality of the industry right now is just it's a male dominated industry, and it's taking some people some time to cotton on to the fact that women are really exponentially growing within it. So, we're all different in how we deal with things, and it's, sometimes it's a real challenge, and how I've dealt with it over the years just has depended mostly on my mood that day. And most of the times I just take a deep breath. I take a deep breath, an internal breath, and then I just try in the calmest way possible to explain to the person that actually I'm a fairly accomplished hunter and I'm just looking for some advice on X, Y, Z, or whatever they're throwing back at me. I just do my very best to be calm in my response and non-confrontational. Doesn't always work. Sometimes I get cranky about it, yeah. But It's a really tough one, and I think that a woman who chooses this path needs to know that she has to have a pretty tough hide, and that you're gonna take some of this on, and it's best to try to let it roll off your back. So in my conversations with women at the seminars, or privately, or offline, or in small groups, whatever it is, generally, that's where I try to help funnel them, is into that. We can make small changes to get to a larger change, but in the meantime, we just have to let it slide off our backs.
Yeah, Kyle, you remember we had that conversation with Bree Van Scotter, friend of mine. She's an influencer out of Georgia, executive chef, has a television show about hunting, and she's super accomplished. Like, she's done African hunts, and she's just done the gator hunt, and she had an interview a couple years ago, I believe it was, and sat down with one of the major national reporters. And he said, "So your husband takes you hunting and got you into hunting, and that's a real hot button with her. And he doesn't hunt, but the automatic stigma that you're facing because you're a female, just it sticks." And I totally get it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, and it's. It's less now, I'll be honest with you, given the fact of who I'm married to, and just the exposure that brings to who I am in a room. But before that happened, I was anonymous, completely anonymous, and absolutely, that was a standard response. Was your husband hunts, or your boyfriend hunts, or where is your husband and where is your boyfriend? What do you mean you're here by yourself? Really interesting responses.
Well, and the interesting thing is, I look at someone, I think Anna Voracek is on your committee. Am I correct in that? You look at someone like...
She's not on the committee. Sorry to correct you there, Kyle, but she was a guest this year during the seminar. Right. Yeah.
So I look at someone like her, or, the list goes on and on and on, but Christy Titus is, I could drop 100 names, and, these women have killed 10 times more than I ever will even think about. Right. And they're way more accomplished and so successful. Right. And it's, there's so many successful, accomplished, and it's, like you said, it's a growing part of the industry now. And I think, like, for retailers in the industry, they're going to really have to evolve and rethink their strategy, because a lot of their customers down the road it is going to be steeped with a lot of women that are now doing what we love to do, right? So yeah, it's really interesting, and it just amazes me. We have so many accomplished people in our community now that are female hunters. So it just amazes me that there's still that old stigma that hangs around, right? So
yeah.
Okay, cool. I know there's a bunch of other stuff we could talk about, obstacles for women entering into the hunting community. But what I'd love to talk about now is I got an email from you a couple early last week regarding a new campaign, a new program that you have, and I'm really excited about this. Wild Sheep Society BC, we voted to support it, and we're going to promote it through our channels, the work that you're doing through the Wild Sheep Foundation, your committee. So tell us about Women Hunt, what's going on in Texas, and about your program coming up this fall, because I can't wait to hear about it, and we really want to promote this well, and I just can't wait to see the outcome.
Yeah, thank you. I am so excited about it too, and had this opportunity existed for me when I was starting out in 2016, 17, I just would have been all over it. I think it's a game changer. And so Women Hunt, I just like to just quickly, Kyle, if you don't mind, for those of you who've been following the journey the last 2 years of this committee and this program, you're probably thinking, hey, is that the name? It is the name now. So I just want to go through that for a second. Initially, we didn't really know how to brand ourselves, and we were called the Women in Hunting Initiative. I never liked it. It's wordy. I don't like the acronym, but anyway, this year, I was doing a lot of online research, kind of seeing other groups, how they name themselves and brand themselves. And I suddenly just came up with Women Hunt. And I thought, I like this. It's clear and it's declarative. And I think it invites a little bit of curiosity. What does that mean, Women Hunt? And also, I feel it's unapologetic. It's a statement. It's an action statement. And so that's our new name, Women Hunt. We've trademarked that, and we're thrilled it was not taken in that process. But anyway, so we've moved away from the old lingo, and it's the Wild Sheep Foundation's women hunt program. So
Very
what
cool.
we're doing this fall. Yeah, thank you. So this fall, so what happened was I had an opportunity to observe a course in February at the FTW Ranch in the Hill Country of Texas, and the program is called the New Hunter Program course. And the FTW Ranch designed and developed this course and started delivering it. As I said, first time was in February. So I went out to observe it because I had let the ranch owner know that that was something I thought had extraordinary value. When I looked at the skeleton of the course schedule, I thought, my goodness, this is actually soup to nuts. It's going to take a brand new hunter from not even having fired a gun potentially to hunting a doe on this property, and it really is a soup to nuts program. And so I went out to observe it. They were really receptive to feedback, which any new program needs tweaking, but I certainly went in with the lens of a woman and a new woman hunter, and they were great about that. And so they've delivered it a few times since, and they continue to tweak it a little bit, but the nuts and bolts of it remain the same. And so I got with my committee after having observed it, and I said, I just think that this would be a great way to really kick off the new program, the rebranded program, and really get something going that can just generate a bunch of interest and excitement, and really an incredible opportunity for 12 women. So we built a business plan. We presented it to the chairman or chairwoman and the CEO of Wild Sheep Foundation, and then got board approval, and we're on our way. So basically, the concept is that we're going to work with the Wild Sheep Foundation's chapters and affiliates, and we want to find 12 exceptional women to send on this opportunity. And the committee has developed a series of questions. There's an application package. Every member gave thought to what they felt was a thought-provoking, challenging question to ask. And we built a package. And any interested woman can apply. And the committee will assess every application that comes in. But we really want this. This is designed to support the women of the Wild Sheep Foundation and its chapters and affiliates. And so that's why we approached the chapters and affiliates to help us find those women. So once the opportunity is tremendous. I'll go through a little bit of the details with you guys. So the course is going to be in early October, and I picked those dates because the weather is great in Texas. It's not too hot. And also it's going to give these women immediate experience about a month out to hunting season in most regions. So it'll be fresh in their minds and a good kickstart for them. So the ladies have the chance to be selected to attend the course, and they're responsible for getting themselves to San Antonio, and beyond that, we'll take care of them. But they get down to San Antonio on September 30th. We overnight on the Riverwalk, have a group dinner where they can all get to know each other and break the ice a little bit. On the Friday, October 1st, we've hired coach transport, and we're going to drive everybody out to the ranch. And it's about a 3-hour drive or so, get everybody there safely. And once we arrive at the ranch, we're going to have some lunch, and then everybody's going to jump into the Jeeps with the instructors and staff, and we're going to tour the ranch, or parts of the ranch anyways. It's huge. It's 14,000 acres, but we'll tour parts of the ranch so that they can see the environment they're going to be working in for the following 4 days. So what does a range look like where they're going to learn how to shoot? And what does a paper target look like versus a steel target versus a 3D target? What does a blind look like, a hunting blind? What does, or even just, we're going to see game as we drive through the ranch. So what's the difference between an axis deer and a black buck deer and a white-tailed deer and whatever else we might see? So they're going to get some orientation. And then we're going to jump in on Saturday morning. It's a 4-day course, and they're going to learn everything from how to handle their gun, their scope, ammunition, how to shoot accurately and confidently to 300 yards. And basic shooting positions, how to build your house to shoot in a stable manner. There's a high concentration, of course, on learning how to use your gun and use it well. And then from there, game identification, shot placement, field dressing, butchering. They bring in a chef from San Antonio who specializes in wild game cooking. He's going to teach everybody how to make sausage and other dishes. Some really great perks from all this opportunity. You get an opportunity to hunt a white-tailed doe, and maybe you'll be successful and maybe you won't. That's hunting. But what we're going to have the ladies do is share their harvest. So whoever is successful, however many of the 12 are successful, that meat will get portioned out between the 12 of them. And, we've got lots of great sponsors. We have, we have Yeti, who's fully donated 65 quart coolers and ice, and we're going to pre-ship it down there, and those ladies can just pack up those coolers and take that meat home with them. We have the program actually is funded for the most part. We've had some very generous donors over the last couple of years who've donated auction items at the sheep show. We've had some individual donors. And then the chapters and affiliates are going to be supporting as well for the ones who are selected. And so these ladies are just going to be getting a tremendous opportunity. They're going to be able to. Weatherby is supplying us with the rifles, and Leica with the scopes. The women will have that option. If they liked their gun and scope package that they used for the 4 days, they can buy it at a really reduced price, take it home with them in a hard case. Kenetrek we're working with Kenetrek. They're making a donation to us for a pair of boots for every woman who attends. We're going to be working with some camo companies to get some clothing. There's just really tremendous funding and support from multiple companies and individuals. I can't say enough about the course. Like when I observed it, it really was remarkable to see how they took these new hunters and just built proficiency and confidence in 4 days. And to me, the really exciting part about this is that we've taken their base program, tweaked it a little bit. We're going to bring in 12 women. And I really feel that this is a great environment for them to go out and give it a shot. It's possible that out of those 12, somebody's going to figure out they don't want to do this, and that's okay. There's going to be no judgment. It's a safe place. But hopefully they'll all find out they love hunting and be really great, proponents and supporters. One of the things we're doing is we're going to inject into the course a delivery of the North American conservation model for wildlife. I've asked Becky Humphreys from the National Turkey Federation to record her delivery of that model. So interesting, Kyle. Dr. Peregrine Wolf, chair of the Wild Sheep Foundation, had heard Becky deliver the model once at wildlife veterinary symposium, and apparently Becky's delivery is really great. She's very relatable, and she can deliver it in such a way that the person listening can grasp the concepts and then repeat them. So we've asked Becky to refilm that, and then we're gonna show that and then have a discussion about it. So we've added aspects of what were important to us to this course, and we really want these 12 women to have just a spectacular experience and really understand that fundamental piece of how hunting forms such an important part of wildlife conservation.
Right on. So, Renee, so just to be clear, you're going to have these applications, and so somebody's interested. First of all, what's the criteria? Is it, if they're an experienced hunter, I guess kind of they out because you're looking for encouraging new people into the community. And then also, what's important? What are you guys looking at for in the selection process? So let's say we have somebody that is a listener that maybe is interested in hunting, or maybe they know a woman that might be interested. What kind of things are you guys looking for when in your selection process to encourage people for the course?
Yeah, great question. And we are looking for women who've never hunted, although we're open to looking at a woman who maybe has tried hunting and it wasn't a good experience and wants to start fresh. So the course is not designed for an experienced hunter or even a moderately experienced hunter. It really is designed for somebody new to this experience. So that is one of the things we'll be looking for, is either no hunting or limited. Candidates must be of the age of majority. So it is for women age 21 or older. They also need to travel solo. So when you come out to the ranch, you can't bring your boyfriend or your husband or your dad or your mom or whatever it is. You have to come on your own and be prepared to be, you're going to be working really hard. It's an intensive course. It's long, long days, and you need to be focused and ready to learn. It is important, I think, if we're going to talk about criteria, just let's put it out there. They have to be willing to be photographed and videotaped, and their images might be used and will be used by the Wild Sheep Foundation, the Women Hunt program, probably the FTW Ranch, but it'll be, the Wild Sheep Foundation ultimately owns the images and footage, and so they just need to be comfortable with that. So, a couple other little points around logistics. As I mentioned, this program is funded by really generous donors and the chapters and affiliates. But the participants are responsible for getting themselves to San Antonio, to the hotel that we'll be staying at. And then they're responsible for their breakfast the following morning and then getting themselves home from the San Antonio airport on October 6th. Beyond that, though, the program covers everything else, but they do have some skin in the game for getting themselves out there. And then what are we looking for? Well, we've developed an application package with some very, very questions that were really important to this committee to determine how the women think about hunting, conservation, what their thoughts are about wanting to try this. And so the series of questions, it's an opportunity for these women to answer them and then we worked with Kyle. We worked with Dr. Ryan Brock, the youth educator for Wild Sheep Foundation, and he helped us develop the scoring rubric for the questions, so that we are applying a consistent methodology to grading the answers, so that there's no, how there can be subjectivity to an essay answer. We want to avoid that, right? So Dr. Brock has helped us develop that scoring rubric, so to try to make it as consistently fair as possible.
Right on. So this is amazing to me. Like, you've got this program. I think this is basically a $3,000 program plus all this gear on top of it. Like, there's, we're pushing $4,000 here for what people are getting, and they just got to show up. That's all, and buy breakfast. Sorry, I forgot the breakfast. You got to pay for breakfast. So
one meal.
What a fantastic opportunity for 12 lady hunters. It's going to be a phenomenal. I somehow wish I was female and not a hunter right now. So,
I know.
That is so cool. Well, that is great. So now, what I understand, Renee, from the program, you've shared that with us, and it looks so exciting. But one of the pieces I noted was there is a mentorship piece as well, right? So,
right.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what's involved with that aspect of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so this is what I had mentioned earlier about here's a way that we can help with mentorship, and so what we did was we asked the chapters and affiliates in the package I sent. Every chapter and affiliate was, we asked for a couple of things in support of this program. If we select a woman from your chapter or affiliate, we ask for a small investment to help offset some of the costs. We ask, but more importantly, what we ask for is for that chapter or affiliate to find a mentor for that woman, so that when she comes out of this course on October 6th, she's matched with somebody within her community that can answer questions, support her, help out with all those things that new hunters need help with. And we're asking for that commitment from that mentor for a year to follow that woman through a year cycle. And, we have asked, but it's certainly not demanded, but we've asked for that mentor to take that new hunter on a hunt of their choice, whatever it is, turkey, deer, whatever it is they choose, so that that woman has another opportunity in fairly short order to get back out on the field. And one of the things we're going to do is check in with the mentor a couple times over the course of the year, just to see how the new hunter's doing and how the mentorship is going and what their challenges are. We want to learn from the mentor, what that experience is like for them and where we can help improve it in the future. The other thing we're going to do is with the women who are selected, this really is, I think, a most tremendous opportunity. And these women are going to be getting a lot out of this, not just in swag, but in the learning and experience that they're going to get and the relationships they're going to make. They're really going to benefit. And so we're going to be incorporating a giving back something with these women. So what I mean by that is every person is different and they have different comfort levels and different experience. And so every woman, we're going to have a conversation with them and figure out, how is it that you can give back from this? Is it finding another new woman hunter and bringing her along? Is it, if you're maybe really confident and you can articulate that North American model well, and you are, sure in yourself, maybe you're going to choose to meet with an organization within your community who perhaps isn't the biggest supporter of hunting and maybe doesn't just understand the role that hunting plays in wildlife conservation. And maybe you sit down and have a dialogue with them about that and get that conversation started. My point is that it can look a million different ways, and it's going to be based on all of these 12 women's individual preferences and communication styles and comfort levels. So, this is, for me, is a really important aspect. We'll be checking back with them really regularly over the course of that first year on how their mentorship is going and how their journey is going and what are they facing barriers with, and is there a way we can help with that? And also, how did it go? Whatever it was they elect to give back with, how did it go? And we're going to ask them to produce basically a report on that. And, I want to be able to demonstrate to the Wild Sheep Foundation community and the board of directors that this had benefits, real tangible benefits outside of teaching 12 new women to hunt. So that's a really important part too. And the mentorship piece, to me is so critical. That we talk about camaraderie in our community, and we are such a tight community, and we love sitting down and sharing our stories and experiences. And to me, that mentorship piece out of the chapters and affiliates is key, not just to providing that woman support and answer questions and maybe take them on a hunt, but also bringing them along into the community and helping them meet people and making those friendships.
Cool. So this is chapter and affiliates affiliated, I guess, if you will. It's promoted through that. So let's say, as an example, somebody's interested in Idaho, and the Idaho Wild Sheep Foundation's promoting it. They're not a member in Idaho. Is that a factor? They're not a member of the foundation. Is that important? How does that look? And what is that? So when we promote this, what do we need to communicate to? Is this only open to our members, or can other people apply?
Right. Great question. No, it's not just open to members, and people don't need to be a member. Obviously, we'd love to see that. And you're correct. One of the things we've asked chapters and affiliates to do is, if a woman is selected from your area and they're not a member of your chapter or affiliate, to consider a 1-year membership for them, so that they automatically have that and can come out and start engaging. But no, you don't need to be a member. It is primarily designed to try to support the women of Wild Sheep Foundation and its chapters and affiliates, but it's not restricted to that. And but we certainly would want to see people come on board.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Let's talk dates. So what's the deadline? And then when's the selection process? When are people going to know if they're successful? What does that look like, Renee?
Yeah. Okay. So application deadline is 11:59 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time on August 6th. The women are going to be able to fill out the application electronically, like type in their answers, or they can handwrite it, but they still, at the end of the day, need to print it because they have certain releases they need to initial, and then they have to sign and date the application. Then we'll just ask them to scan that and email it in. I provided the email in the package, but I'll just share it here. It's Women Hunt, women plural, WOMENHUNT at wildsheepfoundation.org. So the applicants will scan and email in their application. If the timestamp is 11:59 Mountain on August 6th, committee is going to assess it. So the committee, we've given ourselves a couple of weeks because we just don't know how many applications we're going to get. So we're building in some time for ourselves. So we're going to start assessment immediately after closing, and successful applicants will be notified on August 20th.
Cool.
And then that'll give them the time to make their arrangements and whatnot to get down to the course.
Fantastic. And in terms of, where's the best place for them to go to apply? If somebody's interested, where do they go and apply for this? Is it on the Wild Sheep Foundation site, or is there an independent site, or how does that work?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. So it will be on the Wild Sheep Foundation website. We're just in the process of finalizing building that section of the site. It'll be up by the weekend, I understand. And what we're going to do is the Wild Sheep Foundation is going to post, make some social media posts. The URL to that application will be embedded in the social media posts. So a quick, easy click. That's something that every chapter and affiliate can repost and share if they choose to. They can work with me on creating an original post if they would prefer. But it'll be really easy to just repost what Sydney Broadway is going to produce out there. But so essentially, that's one way of doing it. The other way is, and we've already seen some applications come in, the chapters and affiliates, as you mentioned, I did a presentation on this at the Chapter and Affiliate Summit in June. And so when everybody started receiving the emails from me last week, it seems like some have already shared it out within their membership. How they did that, I don't know if they emailed it or if they printed it and handed them out, I don't know. But that's another mechanism, is that an interested person could contact their local Wild Sheep Foundation chapter or affiliate. And if your listeners don't know where their closest Wild Sheep Foundation chapter and affiliate is, they are welcome to contact me at that email address, womenhunt@wildsheepfoundation.org, and I'll happily point them to the right one.
Very cool. And with the podcast here, what we'll do in the show notes is we'll include the URL once you guys get that up. This will probably come out this weekend as well. So we'll get that information from you and post it in the show notes. So anyone that's interested, we'll direct them in the correct location there. So I'm going to be respectful of your time here, Renee. We've been almost an hour at this, and I know that you have a long journey today. But just before we go, I've seen a great evolution with the Women Hunt, and I really love what you're doing. And I was so excited when I seen this program this year. Where do you see it 5-10 years down the road? Is it kind of more of the same? Do you see it evolving? You seem very proactive, which I think is really exciting. But do you have a vision of where this might end up down the road?
Wow. Well, certainly, the development of the Women Hunt website, that's going to be this hub and spoke, is a big piece of work. And I think that will always evolve. I would really like to find a way to formalize the mentorship piece of this more clearly. We have little forays here and there, and we're getting our feet wet, but I really, over the next 5 to 10 years, would love to see a more formalized mentorship process. Another thing too is that I really think that at some point we're going to need to shift from recruitment and shift to retention. And I think that's a really big part of all of this, of this journey. And particularly because I just, I don't want women to get lost in the process, when they are starting out and maybe they have a great first year and then something goes wrong and they can become discouraged, or whatever that might look or feel like, so that retention piece, really, really important to me. So, and I think a big part of our next steps after this year will be continuing to find different opportunities. Is it always going to be this course in Texas for 12 women? Probably not. I suspect we're going to try different providers, maybe larger groups. Who knows what it might look like. And then also really key component, Kyle, is building those relationships. So, every chapter and affiliate, has an opportunity to work with us, with our committee, if they choose to, on how we can support those local chapters and affiliates. Not only that, there are superb organizations out there, as we well know, and I look forward to building relationships with them as well. Other national organizations, the Wild Turkey Federation, for example, but certainly broader than that. So relationship building will be a big key piece of business in the future, and continuing a broader reach and scope.
Fantastic, Renee. Well, I'm super excited about this, and I want to thank you for your leadership on this committee and the great work you're doing. And just hats off to you and your committee for coming up with this program. It really is exciting, and just really, I'm really keen to see how it evolves and what comes out of all this. And I really can't wait to see what you guys do down in Texas this fall. So really excited about it. I want to thank you again for your time, and wish you the best of luck with the course this fall. And hopefully we can get you back on the show. And I'd like to hear about the outcome of the experience in Texas for these 12 women and your experience and that evolution. And then also talk to you about some of these other stuff we talked about, your transformation as a hunter now that you've become more experienced in the industry as well. So lots of stuff to talk about, but thank you again for your time today.
Well, thank you very much. And I really appreciate how enthusiastic you always are around Women Hunt and with this program. And I appreciate so much the time you've given me today to talk about it. And I look forward to continue to work with Wild Sheep Society British Columbia as we move things forward. And it is going to be really exciting this fall. And I'd be so happy to come back and talk to you anytime about what that looks and feels like. And, I think we're going to see some great things come out of it, and some really great experiences for these women. So it's fantastic.
That's awesome. Thanks again, Renee, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.